Sí.
Oh, that, okay.
How are you doing? Sorry.
What is it?
No, that's fine.
Morning.
Yeah, that's wrong. That one's wrong.
Good morning. We want to welcome you this morning to the Drainage District Board of Directors meeting for today, June 4th, 2013. The entire court being present, we have a quorum, open forum. Anybody sign up?
Nobody signed up.
Item 3, consent agenda approval.
There are no concerns, Judge.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Do you have an extra pen? Item 4. Thank you, sir.
Presentation of scoring grid of the firms evaluated through the district's pool of appraisers for the purpose of ranking by the Hidalgo County Drainage District No. 1 Board of Directors in connection with appraisal services for Hidalgo County Drainage District No. 1 J09 project. Leonel Garza, 98. George J. Salazar Appraisal, 97. Johnson Appraisal Group, 96.
Move for approval?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B is request authority to negotiate appraisal service contract to the No. 1 ranked firm of Leonel Garza Jr. and Associates for the provision of appraisal services as it relates to the Hidalgo County Drainage District No. 1 J09 project.
Move for approval.
Second?
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
For the 2013 bond series, we request approval of final negotiated agreement for professional engineering services with L&G Engineering, and approval of work authorization number 1 in the amount of $75,054.77 as it relates to Precinct 3 Rural Drainage Development, approved for negotiations by Hidalgo County Drainage District Board of Directors on January 15, 2013.
Move for approval.
Check.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And we have no items for closed session.
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned. We'll convene back at 9:30. At this time, we're convening the regular Hidalgo County Commissioners Court meeting set for today, June 4th, 2013, for 9:30 a.m. The entire court being present, we have a quorum. Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We ask you to be with us as we do the business of the county. Help us to remember to give you all the glory for everything that we do here. Help us to remember that when things go wrong, that we have enough faith to know that you're in charge and that your will be done. Please send us more rain, at least in the western end, and thank you for the rain that you have sent in the rest of Texas and some of the valley. We ask all these things in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
All right, our consent agenda, any concerns?
Okay.
Do we have a,
Yeah.
are there any concerns with the agenda, consent agenda?
Consent agenda item 38849.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the item number?
It's 13B.
13B.
Move for approval of the consent agenda excluding 13B.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, Commissioners, 13B, just for the record, is off by 1 cent. So we want to state that the caption should state $56,229.93 as opposed to $56,229.92. It's a point of information that it is a 1 cent difference.
Move for approval with a correction.
Second.
Thank you.
Are we in open, Virginia, were you trying to say something?
To that issue, I will say, though, that the vendor is charging 92 cents. Our verification came out to the penny of 92, but the auditor wants 93. I just want you to know that the vendor is requesting 92.
So we're going to be overpaying by a penny?
By a penny.
No, we need, it'll be that penny. We need to pay that out. It's a payable account. So,
What?
It's a payable account.
yeah, the recommendation to request the 93 cents instead of 92
And
cents
that's
is
been
cents.
done. I just wanted to
Right.
explain that our calculations turned out.
Okay.
I don't know if you all can answer back on consent agenda. I know you can't in the open forum, but it's 13M
That was
in your
mis-
consent agenda.
What
And
about it?
I thought that we had the roof on the annex building done.
Can you address, I'll give you plenty of time in open forum. That'll be our next item. We've
Okay.
already approved the consent agenda. That's
Oh, you
what-
already approved everything. Okay.
I apologize.
All
I
right.
should have.
That's fine. Thanks.
All right.
That's it? Yeah,
Yes,
this one.
did they approve
Next
it?
item
Yeah.
is open forum.
Did we vote on?
Yes, we voted on it. And the first presenter is Elisa Alvarado. Would you mind waiting to, there's an item on the agenda related to voting centers, and we'd like to be able to get involved in the discussion. And I noticed that there's 3 individuals, Cynthia Garza Reyes and Rosalie Weisfeld, that want to talk to us during open forum. But if you don't mind, I'll be waiting a while until we call that agenda item, so then we get involved in the discussion. All right, then the first presenter is Fern McClarty.
Good morning. My question is on 15E. This is requesting $150 expenses that were occurred on the trip to Washington. And if you look up your paperwork and things, why we're paying 2 different $150 extra is because they went to the wrong airport. Now, I don't know how, it's been a while since I traveled, but I always checked to make sure which airport and what where I'm supposed to go. So my question is, why are the taxpayers having to pay $150 2 times for individuals that cannot read and make sure where they're going? If they have to pay for it, this will never happen again. If the taxpayers have to pay for it, it'll happen again, because, you know, it's easy money, easy come and go. They left McAllen, went to Houston, got at Bush Airport, left from Houston Bush, went to Dulles, and that going up, they had no problem. But coming back, they, instead of going to the Reagan, which is a national, which is on the paperwork here, and then they would go to Bush in Houston, and then from Bush they would come to McAllen. All you have to do is read. So why does the taxpayer have to pay this? We have to teach a lesson as to why we're doing things, to do it correctly. And it's all right there in the paperwork, and it's because they didn't pay attention to where they were going. And the second thing, we don't ask, I also did the participation, so I was going to let you have a heads up so maybe you won't vote on it before I get up here. I don't quite understand, it's on number 23A6. It's about the debris removal for Kingsville and Hidalgo County. Are we paying to help them get rid of brush and stuff when there's a trouble? Or are they also going to come and help us get rid of the brush and stuff when we have a hurricane or have flooding or something? Thank you.
I noticed that you also signed up that you want to participate.
Yes.
You've had an open forum. We can't respond, so you need to either decide.
That's why I was giving you a heads up.
Well, you need to decide whether you want to do open forum or do you want to get involved in the other procedure of public participation.
Okay. How many times do we come up here, at least mine, and by the time I'm here, you've already voted on it? And
That's not the case. I try to be as open as I can, give everybody an opportunity to speak.
But you have voted on things before we got here, so I was just giving you heads up on I was going to have a question. If you want it that way, that's fine, but I just wanted to be sure, because most of the time, by the time I got here, you've already seconded it and they've already voted on it. So I just wanted, you always say, well, we can't speak back. I just wanted to be sure you knew that I was going to ask the question a little later on. Maybe you would wait on me.
All right. Next presenter is Opal Billman.
Good morning. My name is Opal Billman. In Hidalgo County, to grant a divorce, there must be a settlement of the community property owned by the 2 spouses. That's the purpose of being in court. In this case, there was no settlement of the community property owned jointly and undivided by Joe and me. Therefore, our community property remains owned jointly and undivided by Joe and me. Since Joe's death, the only persons who can divide, lease, sell, or convey our community property is the 3 rightful heirs of the estate of Joe Billman and me. And it takes all 4 of us. Any legal document concerning our community property requires our 4 signatures to be legal. The divorce was not finalized and now can never be. State law is, when Joe died, this case was over. Our community property was no longer under the jurisdiction of the 275th District Court, but rather under state law. State law being that the court must dismiss the case. For a divorce settlement, the judge divided $650,000 of non-existent rent. Since the $650,000 didn't even exist, it most certainly is not our community property. The judge appointed his court manager and his court beneficiary for our community property. The court-appointed manager filed for a shell corporation with the Secretary of State, which the Secretary of State approved. Why? We're in the middle of a divorce process here. Our community property is the objective of a necessary divorce settlement. The Securities Exchange Commission rules that it is necessary to disclose this information. The judge, the state, all shareholders are to be advised that the property being conveyed by one spouse into a shell or empty corporation belongs to two spouses, making the conveyance without foundation of force in truth, fact, or law. The conveyance has no merit to be enforced. Then in 2009 and 2012, 6 and 9 years after Joe's death, the state put me through 2 trials and planned a third one to charge that I am trespassing on the state in order to oust me from my home. It is the state who was supposed to give me a settlement of my community property, and that didn't happen, and now can never happen. But state law passes my 1/2 of the community property to me. The actions of the court are unconstitutional, do not meet the standard of community property law or due process of law or equal protection of the law. It is a breach of trust by the government to take for free all of the private property of Joe and me. Our community property cannot be sheltered by the state for the profitable takeover by the state. The law says they can't do that. I want my freedom and my community property. It is the law. False imprisonment is a crime. Fabricated documents and counterfeit justice have no place in the government of this country. Thank you very much.
Next presenter is Virginia Townsend. Good morning.
Good morning. I have or I could say picky, picky, picky. However, I do have too good a memory, been around too long. I remember the roof on the annex building got fixed, got redone. We paid a whole lot of money, and I don't know how many years ago it was, but we did do that. And they found bat guano up there, and they had to clean it out, and there was holes in the roof, so the bats came in, and we got it all fixed, I thought. And here we have on the consent agenda, we have $91,882.94 to fix the roof again. So I don't know. I just don't understand why when we do get something fixed, we don't have warranties saying it's going to, if something doesn't work after X amount of years, they're going to fix it themselves. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me. I just think sometimes people take advantage of our county. But anyhow, that's it. I know it's on consent agenda and y'all have passed it already, but I don't know who's paying attention to all this stuff. I told you a long time ago we need a building construction supervisor person who takes care not only that, and incidentally, we're supposed to have those modular buildings already open and running out. That's what they said, but they're not open either. Somebody, if you all had somebody that was really tough, that was overseeing all this stuff, we'd at least get some kind of report saying why it's not done or why the roof has to be redone or whatever. But I don't want everything to just keep on happening automatically just because we seem to have deep pockets. We don't have deep pockets, but I'm not so sure they don't think we do. Thank you.
Mr. Guerra, do you have any recollection? You've been around 25 years plus. When did they work on that roof?
The old administration building? The old administration building, Judge, was acquired in...
It was the 80s.
It was, right. It was 89, 90 when we acquired that building. And contrary to the comments, it has to do with a building that is aged over the years that was not addressed, unfortunately, over the years. The area that we're talking about is not the same area that was repaired some time ago, a few years ago. the area that she's talking about where we found backwater and whatnot, that was addressed and that was taken care of.
All
okay, so.
Thank you, sir. At
Thank
this
you.
time, I want to read a letter from our governor, Rick Perry. The state of Texas has been deeply affected by the injuries and loss of life that resulted from the recent motel fire in the city of Houston. 4 firefighters perished in that blaze. It seems fitting that flags should be flown at half-staff on the day of the memorial service as a mark of respect for those brave firefighters who perished while serving their community. Therefore, pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 3100, and acting in my capacity as the governor of the state of Texas, I hereby direct the lowering of state of Texas flag to half-staff on Wednesday, June 5th, 2013. Flags to return to full staff on the next day, Thursday, June 6th, 2013. All right. Next item 6.
Morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. The report on the legislative issues coming up, the House announced field hearings on the redistricting issue. They're going to have some hearings in San Antonio on the 10th, in Dallas on the 6th of June, and also in June in Houston on the 12th. The issue is some of the minority groups are want to open up the issue about having an additional congressional seat in the Dallas area. It's not going to affect our lines down here. The only thing it may affect, if they do go forward to try to open up a new seat, a minority seat, would be the dates of the primary. It may change those dates. As we know, 2 years ago, some of these dates were changed to May and July. But that's about it right now. We're going to continue to track the redistricting chair on this issues.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item, 6B, update on I-69.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Bobby Villarreal with the County Judge's Office. I know some of y'all went to the meeting last week, but we had some good news that the interstate designations have been approved. And it looks like they're going to do I-2, Interstate 2 to replace Expressway 83 from Showers to 77. And then we're going to have I-69 East from Brownsville to north of Raymondville. And we will also have I-69 Central from far up on 281 north of Edinburgh to 2812. I think 2812 will probably be completed in about a year or so. So they're looking at doing some sign ceremonies probably in the next couple months. So I'll keep you all apprised of that when that occurs. But there is a feasibility study on 281 that's continuing to move forward. They're going to talk to stakeholders from FAR to Falfurrias because the ranch owners, they need that controlled access. So they want to see what the right-of-way impacts are, the feasibility, the environmental impacts. So we're going to keep pushing the 281 to try to get all the way to I-37 so that we'll complete that leg on 281 and 77 as well. But I'll keep you all apprised. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6C.
Judge,
Excuse me, Bobby.
what are the benefits to the area with the new designations?
The biggest thing is from economic developers, they like to have that interstate designation. They're site selectors. When they're looking to locate companies, one of the things they ask, are you near an interstate? Do you have an interstate? And now that's something we can check off. Now we're on a level playing field with the rest of the country now. So that's a big deal, but we have that interstate designation for the valley now, but to get us connected to I-37 is also a big deal. So it is a... Truckers want to know that they can go uninterrupted from our bridges, northward, uninterrupted with a controlled access.
Is it going to improve the funding for any additional work or not?
Excuse me?
Is it going to improve our chances for funding?
Yeah, I think what Mario Jorge has told us is that now we get some federal funds to upgrade Expressway 83 rather than solely being relied on by the state of Texas to upgrade some of our state roads here. So it is going to improve our ability to get funding.
So we go from having no interstate to having 2 interstates, highways, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Item 6C.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Item 60 is approval of appointment of Mr. Robert Contreras as an intern in the County Judge's Office Public Affairs Division as part of the Academic Leadership Alliance. And that's a program that's in coordination with the McAllen EDC, the Region 1. And what they do is they place educators into work experiences for the summer. So he'll be placed for 3 weeks in our office, and he'll get some experience there. He's an educator.
Is the young man here?
He is not. He's actually not. But he is an educator at PSJA. So requesting approval, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. I'll bring him next week to introduce him. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Balde, item 7.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. There's no action this time. Items 7A, 1, and 2, unless there's action to be taken further down the agenda. Item 7B, we did discuss a little bit on the old administration building. The portables are at completion. They're tidying up all the small details. They will be doing a walkthrough in the next week or so for completion, substantial completion. We brought to the court, as I stated last week, or I believe the week before last, we'll now be working with the courts on the transition, as we have to work with their docket so that when they move over,
when are they going to be completed?
The roof was the last major item that needed to be completed. That was near completion from where I went over yesterday. That was near completion. So, Judge, I would venture to say that, yes, we did state that the completion would be at the end of May, but, plus or minus, I would say within the next week or so, we'll have the building ready. Again, there has to be a walkthrough for the completion. And then, as I stated, we are working with the courts on the transition. Again, the biggest part of that transition is going to be working with their dockets to lessen the disruption in their court.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. There are no emergency situations since last agenda. So, item C, I'm asking the court to accept the settlement check from Fred Loya Insurance Company in the amount of $97.50, and this will settle an auto accident with one of our county vehicles.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D, again, Judge, Commissioners, this issue has come up before. There is a claim that we're asking payment or process of payment of claim. This is for a court-appointed attorney. It was for Noel Gonzalez. The amount is $4,475. This is in connection with legal representation of an indigent defendant. Obviously, we asked this with authority of the county treasurer to issue payment after the review and auditing procedures are completed by our county auditor.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners.
Item 8, Constable, Precinct 3.
Good morning, Dan Rolls on behalf of Constable Gallardo.
Give me a copy of that.
Discussion and consideration approval to appoint Rene Gonzalez as Deputy Constable by Constable Lázaro Gallardo Jr., Constable Precinct 3, in accordance with Texas Local Government Code, Section 86.011.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Item 9, our Sheriff's Office.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Richard Ozuna, Sheriff's Office, on behalf of our Sheriff Guadalupe Trevino. Item 9A, it's authorization and approval to apply for the FY 2013 Operation Stone Garden Grant with the Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA.
Move for approval.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10, our HR Department.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Under 10A, for the IT Department, approval to create the following temporary position effective for 6 months and or 12/31/2013.
Move for approval of 10A, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And 10B, under Facilities Management, approval of the following personnel actions: to delete Infrastructure Systems Manager, slot 90, at $67,800. Delete Electrician 1, slot 108, at $32,769. And to create a Maintenance Manager, slot 113, at $50,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Is that for 1 and 2? Okay, thank you. And 10C, Executive Office, approval to create the following full-time positions. Slot 17, Administrative Operations Coordinator 4 at $50,000.
For approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Balde,
Yes, sir.
on Mr. Sunday's replacement, was his position Infrastructure Systems Manager?
Yes, sir.
Right, it was Infrastructure Systems Manager.
And you're now going to have a maintenance
A
manager?
maintenance manager, yes, because remember, Judge, I believe it was a budget season ago that we did away with a department head per se for that department. That fell under my office, and then we, in essence, split it up into having two divisions for the maintenance side, division for the infrastructure side. So I want to have continuity and just have what we have are maintenance managers.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the record, that motion was in C1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Under the DA's office, approval to create the following temporary part-time positions not to exceed 6 months. Slots 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100. They're all clerk ones at $3,492 annual or $9 an hour.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item A2 is approval to create the following temporary part-time positions not to exceed 6 months and positions to become effective 7/1/2013, and approval to waive the posting and hiring of these positions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there an error on the amount? 8,320 annually?
Only part.
No, it's $20 an hour. They're part-time.
Oh, okay.
And the other one is $14.42 an hour.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion
Is
carries.
that for 2, 3, and 4?
Yes.
And under B, DA State Supplement, approval to create the following temporary part-time positions to be effective 7/1/2013, and approval to waive the posting and hire position of these positions.
Move for approval of 1 and 2.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
There's no action, Judge, under item 12A, Health and Human Services.
All right, item 13. Is there anything new to report, sir?
I have one item, sir, other than the water, but there's nothing for the water right now, no, sir.
All right.
And on item 13B, it's the requesting authorization for Hidalgo County to execute the interlocal cooperative agreement between Hidalgo County, La Joya Independent School District. This is in reference to the TSSI grant for the dome shelter. That was, we did the MOU earlier in the year, and now this, we want to solidify the interlocal.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, 14, Facilities Management.
Judge, for Facilities Management, I'm asking approval of an application for credit. This is with Dealers Electric Supply. This is needed to order electrical supplies from the vendor. I'm also asking for authority to sign all the pertinent documents as it pertains to the application.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The second item also is an application with Wholesale Builder Supply. This again is also for needed supplies to be purchased from that vendor. I'm also asking for authority to sign the pertinent documents as pertain to the credit.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And Judge, Commissioners, just to state for the record, I know there was a concern from the auditor's office. I have talked to Linda, but to state for the record, this will be through purchase orders.
Okay, item 15.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning, sir. IT Department.
Good morning. Item 15A is authorization to use the county's Justice Technology Fund for the purchase of equipment for the County Constable's Office as an extension in the role in supporting the JP offices. There was a concern on auditor's letter for this week about the tie-in and how this benefits the JP offices, we're simply purchasing wireless keyboards for the previous tablets that you had authorized approval for. They use these for civil processing and the JP warrants that they serve.
It's already been budgeted, or is it money from that been collected?
It's from that fund, sir. The money comes from that fund. We're just adding to a previous purchase. These are the keyboards for the previous purchase that the court had approved.
Move for approval.
Second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 15B is requesting the approval to pay the claims as listed for AT&T. Again, we're just catching up on the bills. We're pretty much caught up and resolved on the issues. We're still tying down some of the loose ends. We're requesting approval on 15B.
Move for approval.
Second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same with...
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Same with 15C. This is for the Health and Human Services. These are claims on some past due bills.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
15,
motion carries.
Thank you. I'm sorry, getting ahead of you. 15D, for Human Resources, this is equipment upgrade for the cell phone for the HR director, Ms. Cortez. It's a small change to the plan, and there is no cost on the equipment.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
I'm requesting no action on 15E, which was the airport claim at this time. Thank you.
That's not fair. At least I got it out.
All right, item 16, Urban County.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. Our first item on the agenda is requesting the approval of a best and final negotiated contract with professional appraisal review services with HLH Appraisal Services in the amount of $450 per parcel. We'll have a total of approximately 8 parcels for a total amount of $3,600.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B is on behalf of Precinct 1, requesting the consideration and action to award and enter into a construction contract with Castle Enterprises LLC for a street improvement project on Science Avenue located within the Precinct 1 area. The total amount of the contract would be $222,724.05.
Approve.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C is a requirement that we have to follow through with HUD. This is to advise you that we would like to disclose that a current employee, Sergio M. Garcia, is applying for a home loan with the Affordable Homes of South Texas, a nonprofit agency. Mr. Garcia is an employee of the Urban County Program and monitors the Emergency Shelter Solutions Grant and CDBG program. He is not involved with the home program. Mr. Garcia did not qualify through our program for assistance because the property he's going to purchase is within the FAR city limits and not part of the Urban County consortium. Therefore, we will not build his home with Urban County funds. It will be built specifically with Affordable Homes of South Texas, which will be using other funds. Mr. Garcia has qualified for a program through the Affordable Homes of South Texas.
You're not asking for action, just letting us know.
Just to disclose to the public that we are not just helping all
No
our
Urban
employees.
County funds are involved.
None whatsoever. It'll strictly, but because he's an employee and because we do deal with Affordable Homes of South Texas, we
All right.
want to disclose. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 17, our Elections Office.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. A very important day today for elections. I will give you a Vote Center Selection Committee update simply to say thank you to those committee members that worked so hard to come and bring us to this day. There is change, hopefully happening, change for the good for the voters of Hidalgo County, and I will introduce Eli Olivares, who is the appointed chair to speak for the committee, and he will give you the talking points, and he will give you the information necessary to move forward with hopefully action today. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. What I will be doing is giving you a report on our committee as is. The purpose of the committee: Voter Center Selection Committee was recommended by the Lubbock County Election Department based on their successful implementation of voter centers. The Election Department invited representatives from throughout the county to participate. No person or entity was barred or discouraged from participating, though some did not take advantage of this great opportunity. Participation was voluntary, with the stated goal of providing a recommendations of sites for the Commissioners Court to approve as vote centers. The committee consisted of 49 members. The current process. The current recommendation is for the November 2013 constitutional election only. The previous constitutional election was served by 30 election day polling places. You will be provided with that information. The recommendation from this committee calls for 61 election day voter centers. That information will also be provided for you as well. It is standard practice to consolidate precincts during a low turnout election, effectively reducing the number of polling places. Not only does the committee recommend an increase compared to the last constitutional election, the voter center concept allows those voters to cast ballots on election day near where they work, play, or live at their convenience. The data from the November 2013 election will provide data to the county for future elections, which will be vital to making an informed decision on the elections with a higher expected turnout. Nothing is set in stone here. The Commissioners Court will be able to review this data before determining to continue with voter centers or revert to precinct-based polling places in the future. General recommendation criteria. The recommendations generally follow the pattern of finding facilities capable of handling larger than traditional amounts of voter turnout, as voters will be able to choose the most convenient location. Some of these locations will be capable of consolidating 8 to 10 machines. In general, there is a move away from the elementary schools to minimize the possible interruption of security and service that county-wide voting will bring to campuses, especially during testing phases in May elections. In general, there is a move towards public institutions to minimize the cost of the county to administer elections. Observations of committee process. The committee vote was conducted through a ballot instrument approved by the committee action. While there were very few closely contended locations, most voter centers were approved or denied by a very significant majority of the committee. The committee worked as a whole to deliver a justifiable recommendation for the Commissioners Court consideration. Contentions on the committee. There have been some committee members who have alleged problems with the committee, both procedural and ideological. These members generally seem concerned about the protection of voters' rights, but their specific allocations were not accepted generally by the committee as a whole, which is compromise of other individuals concerned about the protections of voters' rights. Other opinions favoring the maintenance or increase of every traditional polling place instead of transitioning toward a more efficient voter center did not persuade the majority of the committee. Conclusion: there will never be a wrong voting place in Hidalgo County. Therefore, it is the committee's opinion that Hidalgo County will experience a higher voter turnout. That is my report.
Could you address the minority report contention that their concern is that the removal of the neighborhood polling locations with the replacement of these voter centers will hurt the poorest of our voters, who are predominantly minority members? The elderly, the stay-at-home mothers, people who customarily walk to their neighborhood polling locations on election day.
Well, first of all, Judge, we don't have those facts in front of us. This is an assumption. What we're trying to say is, yes, that may happen, but what also happen is where we have those voter centers, people will also be able to walk there as well. And the convenience of going to these centers will be something that they've not had before. Imagine you can vote anywhere in the county on election day. Some of these people also work outside that precinct area. That means that if they've not been able to vote in the past because of their time schedule, they can now go during lunch or during a break or right after work. So even though these concerns have been brought up, we feel that these voter centers are still creating great conveniences to our voters.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else that desires to make any comments on this issue?
Thank you, Court. You've heard from me before, and you know my concerns about the lack of information. And you heard from Eli just now that it is the opinion, and that's all you're hearing is an opinion. We have been given no empirical data to show us what the impact will be by removing the neighborhood centers and replacing them with other polling locations. So the other concern that I have is about the budget. 2 weeks ago, one of the commissioners asked the election administrator what something would cost. And I wonder, have you really looked at the budget? Where is the budget? I know we never saw a budget. Perhaps it was beyond the scope of our duties, but it certainly is something for you to consider. So what would be the initial investment? What will it cost to maintain? Will the vote center save money? Will it cost more? Would the Commissioners Court make a decision on building a new road or starting a new project without first studying a financial impact statement? You've heard that Travis County has a much larger budget for election administration, and I understand that, but Hidalgo County restraints need to be considered because the Lubbock County Commissioners and the Lubbock Election Administrator, when they were here, said that vote centers did not save them any money, and that we have a growing population, and we want to make sure that these new vote centers do not result in long lines at polling places, requiring some voters either to wait hours to cast a ballot or to forego their right to vote in that election. We want to be sure that voters who cannot wait the required amount of time are not therefore disenfranchised. There was the issue of DREs, whether there was enough DREs or not. And in the 2012 general presidential election, which historically is the highest turnout for any type of election, 544 total machines were used according to the election administrator. There were 50 DREs that were held in reserve for emergencies, which means that there were 229 DREs remained available. Now, if we happen to need even more than the 229 DREs that were still available for use in the presidential election and this constitutional election, we could request to borrow or rent extra machines without having to purchase them from another county or political subdivision. My concern is potential voter suppression, intentional or unintentional. Now, just this morning, I was looking at the list of polling locations for the 2010 general election, and I noticed that just in McAllen, just as an example, in 2012, Roosevelt, Thig Pen and Zavala, Seguin, Jackson, Retama Village, Wilson, and Gonzales were eliminated as polling locations. Now, that's 7 polling locations were eliminated, and 3 were replaced with three new ones were put into use: Bowie, Fossum, and the Facilities and Operations Building. Now, that would have been a good opportunity for the election administrative office to access the files of each registered voter to see if the change offered an opportunity
to see how the voters were really impacted. Did Election Day voters find their way to the new polling locations? Did they vote early? Did they vote by mail? How many high-propensity voters did not vote? How many low-propensity voters did not vote? I was not aware of these changes until just this morning, and most of these polling locations have been neighborhood polling locations for over 40 years. Now, this concerns me because the vote center benchmark impacts the total number of polling locations. Let's call them voting locations. So it's like vote centers and voting locations. It's the same thing. There were 79 in 2010. Now it was reduced to 74. By reducing the number of polling locations, the benchmark for vote centers is reduced too, because it's 65% to 50% rural. Now, the continuity of voting is an issue that's been brought up many times. And we have polling locations that have been in use for 40, 50 years, some of them 20 years, that have been eliminated by this committee. And that's a big concern, because you talk about continuity of voting, those polling locations have been there for many years.
But aren't you really talking about the primary or a general election polling locations, Rosalie?
I'm talking about polling locations on Election Day.
But here we're talking...
And they can be used...
But why don't we talk about what's being attempted to be done here? This will be applicable only to one election. It's a pilot program. And it'll be the constitutional election, which last time we had one was in 2011. At that time, there were 30 locations. This time, there's going to be 61.
Yeah, that really concerns me that the election administrator reduced the number of polling locations to 30 and it wasn't even noticed, and it reminds me again of what happened with the early vote center that was located at the University of Texas Pan American that was eliminated without any conversation. And so, yes, you're right, there could be more polling locations that would be open now, but it's still, my concern is that all of these were just a decision that was not based on empirical data. There was no voting history that was
I would be in agreement with you. We were talking about the primary or the general. But this is a pilot one where we're trying to get an idea of whether or not people will respond positively for it. And the only one that I really wanted to see back in place, and I'm going to be asking, is Gonzales. That's one of the biggest boxes in McAllen.
And so is Milam. Milam had 919 people who voted there in the last general election, according to the election administrator's own data.
Well, but Milam wasn't even on the last year, or 2011.
That's what I'm saying. That polling locations are shifted and changed.
In 2011, Milam was not on it.
Milam may not have been there in 2011, but it was there in 2010, Judge. I have the information right here.
Not in the 2011 constitutional election.
I was just handed a paper right here. Let me look at it and see, because it was just something that was handed to me, and it was not on the list. It was not on the list for 2011. But it is normally a polling location, and again, that's the concern, that these polling locations come up and come down. So it's almost a catch-22, Judge and Commissioners. You say there's a lower turnout, and so we have fewer polling locations, but then you have fewer polling locations, and so then you have a lower turnout because you don't know people.
We have 4 more new ones for McAllen alone, 4 new ones.
There could be 4 new ones, but at what cost, Judge? We don't know that. We haven't even asked the voters of the city of McAllen or Donna or Weslaco.
It's not going to cost them any more. We're going to use the same machines. We're going to pay a few more people, obviously, but it's a pilot program only for constitutional elections. It's not going to affect school boards or cities.
Judge, from my understanding at one of the meetings, the election administrator did tell us that there were going to be some municipal elections in November, and there's also a bond issue that's coming up for South Texas College.
That's correct. That's going to be an important issue. I'm not trying to downplay the constitutional elections, but historically the turnout has been very low.
I understand that, but again, it's like a catch-22. How do we know that people didn't walk up to Milam to go vote and there was no polling location there and they didn't know where to vote on that day? Or they walked up to Gonzales and there wasn't a place, or Jackson or Wilson or Thigpen Zavala or any of the other polling locations that were not on the list of polling locations for 2011. So that's the concern. It's an unknown factor because no studies have been done. There's been no demographics done. You wouldn't do that in a road. You do advanced planning. You look at what the trends are in terms of the development of subdivisions before you start making decisions on where you're going to put a new drainage system or a new county facility. And so don't vote centers deserve the same type of concern and respect and study to implement before you start changing. If we were talking about just turning all of the current polling locations that we have into vote centers and maybe add a few more, then I wouldn't have a problem. No, that's not what we're doing.
Look, I was in agreement with what you were saying up until I met with him yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was concerned. I had a call from Commissioner City of McAllen that the concern was being voiced on behalf of the City Commission in McAllen that we were doing away with voting sites that they would prefer to keep. I showed up at the meeting thinking that we couldn't do that. And it looks like what they've done is not only have they not done away with them, but out of that first page, 31 locations, only Gonzales and Milam have been changed. And we can put those back.
Well, it's Gonzales and Milam and Rayburn, and I just spoke with an elected official from Mercedes who's very concerned about a polling location.
Hold on, Rosalie, please.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Rayburn was not a polling location.
It has been a polling location for as long as it's been a school.
Well, it has been in general elections and primary elections.
Yes, sir.
But not in constitutional. We, by necessity, cut down from 74 locations in general and primary elections to 30. Right now, we're increasing it from 30 to 61. There may be some need to make a few changes, like put Gonzales or Milam back in or change them for another one. But I think it's a pilot project that's worth getting involved in to see what our community does, how they respond to it, whether or not it'll increase turnout.
That is a possibility, and again, it just goes back to there's no kind of empirical data. You're just going to decide to experiment with the voters of Hidalgo County.
Well, which sites do you think we're experimenting with?
With the entire county, because there's been again. I get back to. Would you go and put in a road? Would you go put in what kind of budget? We also talked about mobile units. We talked about adding mobile units to different places, but we were told that was beyond the scope of our charge. And I started to mention about concern that I talked to somebody from FAR. He was concerned that Napper Elementary wasn't on the list as a polling location, and it's been there for years and years. All you're looking at is 2011. You're not looking at 2009. You're not looking at 2007. What's the vote history going back? In the past, we had about 40 polling locations on constitutional elections or more. In this last election, she reduced it down to, in 2011, to 30.
Rosalie.
I understand, and it's the decision of the court, it's the decision of the judge. All I can say is it keeps going back to where's the data, where did the people ask for this?
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to make any comments?
Yeah, Judge.
Yes, sir.
For example, the City of Park, Napper is not one of those centers or listed. And traditionally, people have voted that location. It's a high vote turnout.
What's the name of the school?
Napper.
Napper Elementary. Jefferson Elementary was another one in Edinburgh. And I started to tell you about in Mercedes, they're concerned about in Relampago, South Mercedes, there's no polling location, nor is there any location in the Colonias northeast and north of Mercedes.
For your information, we're going to be asking, or I'm going to be asking, hopefully the court will go along with asking the committee to make presentations to every school board every city commission, let them know what we're doing, make them aware of the changes. If there's anything that needs to be revised or relooked at, let's hear it from the people that are going to be directly impacted, those members of that community. But as far as the idea, you know, the idea seems to be a positive idea.
Thank you.
I would be asking that Napa Elementary be considered as a voting location.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Judge, I've got a question on 38. It says Mission Quique Lagarza Elementary. Is that Palmview?
On
38.
38.
It says that's supposed to be Palmview, ain't it?
I think you're right. But,
or is it considered Mission? I don't know.
Yvonne?
38.
Yes.
38.
38.
They're asking if it's considered Mission or Palmview.
You've got Mission. Is that Mission or Palmview?
It's considered Mission is what I have.
Is that the one on the Homer Road?
Yes.
Yes.
There
North?
were
That's
two
Palmview.
locations used in 2011, and we have upped it to 6
No.
just in Mission.
Okay, that's Palmview then.
Thank you for hearing our testimony today. My name is Elisa Alvarado. I'm board president of ACT, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. And just piggybacking off of the comments of the previous speaker, I hear a lot about empirical data, and I agree. I think we need empirical data, but in order to have that, we need to have a pilot program. I believe having vote centers established in this constitutional election, the way that was recommended by the committee, will prove to be very substantial for the county, not only in the data that is collected, but in moving forward in other elections. Vote centers typically in other counties have helped increase voter turnout on election day for as much as 20%. In this county, we vote early. 70% of our votes come out during early vote. Only 30% come out on election day. If we are able to implement a pilot program that uses vote centers, we will be able to see if in fact vote centers are what people want. I think that the fact of the matter is plain and simple, that we have nothing to lose. This is a win-win situation. If people don't like it, then we don't have to use it. I think what makes Hidalgo County great is our leadership. I think we are leaps and bounds ahead of other counties, and I don't think we should miss out on this opportunity. I ask the commissioners to please consider the recommendations of the Vote Center Committee, because we did go to locations and we did look at centers, and as was stated, it's increased, it's almost doubled. And I think that this is a new way. You know, we talk about planning for the future. You know, nobody planned for iPods when we bought CDs. You know, nobody planned for paved roads when we had dirt roads. You have before you a pilot program that has the potential to change the landscape of early voting and election day voting in this county. I ask that you take into consideration the impact it has on the future. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Cindy Garza Reyes, and I am the District Director for Congressman Ruben Hinojosa. And he has provided me with a letter of support that I would like to share with the Commission regarding the implementation of vote centers as a pilot program for this year's constitutional election. So I'll go ahead and share that letter with you all. Dear members of the Commissioners Court, as the U.S. representative of the 15th Congressional District of Texas, I would like to convey my support for the proposal submitted by the Vote Center Committee to Hidalgo County Commissioners Court for the implementation of a county-wide vote centers pilot program. The Vote Center Committee, comprised of appointed community stakeholders, believes that the adoption of vote centers will ensure that all Hidalgo County citizens have easy, understandable, and convenient access to polling locations on Election Day. As your congressional representative, I know the great importance of the right to vote. It is my personal belief that the success of the democratic system can only truly be personified when all American citizens are given every opportunity to express this right. The committee's proposal would offer more citizens the opportunity to exercise their right to vote. Historically, counties with vote centers have an increase in voter turnout when compared with counties that do not implement vote centers. When incorporated, vote centers contribute to the elimination of voting confusion by abandoning assigned voting precincts and allowing citizens the opportunity to vote at any location within the county. Vote centers have been found to offer a faster, more expedited voting process. As election resources are consolidated to fewer and better staffed locations, more citizens are able to enter and exit polling locations faster than ever before. I am wholeheartedly convinced that now more than ever is the best time to adopt this proposal and enact this pilot program. The opportunity of implementing this program during a constitutional election will allow election officials to evaluate the program and identify any unforeseen consequences before decisions are made to use in a more widely attended primary election, general election. In this light, it is my hope that the Commission wholly considers the committee's proposal. I believe that the Vote Center Committee has shown a true commitment to the citizens of Hidalgo County. I fully support their innovative proposal in taking our region to the next level. I thank you for your consideration of their request. If you have any questions, please contact me or my Chief of Staff, Connie Humphrey, in my Washington, D.C. office. Sincerely, Congressman Ruben Hinojosa. The Congressman has also asked me to reiterate that, again, it is a pilot program, and on the federal side of it, as everybody is aware, our budgets are being cut, whether you're in a congressional office, whether you are with a federal agency. We are seeing those cuts every year, and we're no longer in a year where our region gets earmarks, and those earmarks was something that provided our region with those dollars, with those federal dollars, to enhance our region. So with that, we have to think outside of the box. And the Congressman commends the Commission for creating this committee and for taking that next step for our region. I think one thing that we have to consider is that, again, it's a pilot program. But I think one thing that we can all agree is that when it comes to voter turnout, everybody wants to see voter turnout increase in Hidalgo County. Because of nonprofits like ACT and other nonprofits within the region, we saw that increase in this last cycle, and we need to continue on that mountain. And hopefully, we can do that this year by actually seeing if these voter centers work. And if they don't, well, then they don't. But at least we have that pilot program to see how it works in our area. We wonder why Dallas gets triple federal dollars. It's because of their voter turnout. The only way Washington is going to hear us is if we increase that voter turnout. And if this is an item that can potentially do that, why not try it out and see if it works? Thank you.
Thank you. Annette, did you want to say something?
Yes. And I'll keep it short. I too was on the committee. My name is Annette Muñiz. I'm Chief Deputy for the Hidalgo County Clerk's Office. I'm also a resident of Hidalgo County, and I'm also a proud voter in Hidalgo County. I voted at Crockett Elementary for many, many years, and it was closed down, but with no question, I still continued voting. It didn't keep me from voting. And as we have stressed, this is a pilot program. This is just an experiment. We want to see if it works. But the one thing that I would hope that you all would consider very much so is trying to get away from the schools. There is a nationwide push to eliminate schools for security reasons. The schools have paid so much money for security to protect our children. They have higher fences, they've hired security guards, there's cameras now. You go to the school, you have to sign in, you have to show an ID, you have to wear a badge. When you leave the school, you have to sign out to make sure that you left. Yet on election day, we're telling them, forget all these rules and all this security, we want to use your location for voting and allow just anyone to walk in. We have to remember that there is a law that requires the schools to open up for elections. They cannot say no to us. However, we should take the initiative to protect our children, and we should find another way to vote or another location that's just as good. It's, you know, we looked at all the locations, we looked at some that are very close. You know, some of the arguments have been, well, people walk to their voting location. I lived 5 blocks from Crockett Elementary, and even though I am a hardcore person who works out, I, in so many years, walked once to Crockett Elementary. But if you look at the radius of what a polling place is, not just a few blocks, it goes on for miles. So if we're accommodating those that walk, what about those that live further away? And if we move the location, now we're going to have new people that are going to be walking and maybe make a little bit more distance for the ones that voted at the schools. But the main thing is to really, really consider moving away from the schools. You know, consider the safety of our children. A lot of these elections get very heated. You know, people get very emotional, and the children don't need to be around that. So I would hope that even if the pilot program does not work, that in the future we will consider slowly moving away from the schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, if
Anyone else really? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Judge.
If anyone desires to speak on this issue, please line up behind Ms. Cass.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Ann Williams-Cass. I'm with Proyecto Azteca and the Equal Voice Network. We did give you a copy of our minority report from the Equal Voice Network after meeting with Juanita's husband, Vaughn Cox, who thought he was on the committee and found out later he wasn't, and members of TOP and members of Arise. From the very beginning, we have supported the voting centers. I just want to make that clear because it became obvious that when we wanted to have conversation, we wanted to have more information, we wanted data, and I do respectfully disagree with Elisa that data and information is very important before you make a decision. The assumption was that we were opposed to voting centers. The next comment I want to make is very difficult and very sad. I have worked on committees with Hidalgo County for over 33 years. And as an advocate for colonial residents and for farm workers' rights, I certainly have had contentious meetings where we've had disagreements. But I always felt I could lead the table where there was a lot of respect. This was the saddest experience and the worst process in the 33 years that I have lived here in Hidalgo County, being on this committee. I felt that people were not respected, and I'm not talking about myself, and I have shared this information with the gentleman who was the chairperson of our precinct number 2 committee. But it just has been a very negative experience that I feel very badly about. Thank you. We do recommend voting centers. We're just saying on behalf of the very low-income people that we think more of these neighborhood places need to be maintained. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. I'm Daniel Diaz. I also work, I'm part of the Equal Voice Network. I'm community organizer for La Unión del Pueblo Entero, and just want to express some of the similar words that Ms. Cass mentioned right now. Regarding to voting centers, you know, we're big believers in voting centers, but we're also big believers in wanting to make sure that we understand the argument of this being a pilot program and figuring this out if it's going to work or not. But we really want to make sure that this works out and not just be a pilot program. We really want to make sure this goes through. And, you know, the empirical data and all those issues are very, very important to us. And I looked at the Secretary of State. They did a report on the 83rd legislature. And they looked at and did a report on several other counties throughout the state that have voting centers, you know, besides Lubbock. And we see some that haven't really, you know, spiked up, or some of them have actually dropped 4%. They've stayed the same, or they gone up 4%. And now they believe that perhaps they weren't able to implement enough empirical data or do enough research to be able to pull this through. Is the mic working all right? I feel that it's cutting off a little bit. Am I too close? Okay. How about that? How about right there? Is that good? All right. So before, I think some of the suggestions that Judge Garcia, you made, perhaps going back and going back to the school boards in some of the cities, I think that's a good start. But that's some of my suggestions as a committee member. Thank you.
Judge, if I may comment before.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
My simple, I'd like to congratulate the committee for doing the daunting task. Of course, you're going to have a lot of opinions, and it's hard to agree on everything. I was only hoping that we could respect and disagree on some things, but I do agree with the judge in regards to Gonzales Elementary in McAllen. I sat on that poll site this last one, and I know it wasn't a constitutional one, but they're probably just as opinionated as most other areas, but I would love to see that one come back in it, whether it's replaced or added. It is a progressive movement. I'm all for it. I'm in complete support of it. The only disappointment I may have had is that obviously from the research and the data point, but obviously we're looking, we had a tight time schedule and a tight crunch, and I congratulate most of the committee members to agree. I think at the end of the day, I had a different opinion of it up until yesterday as well. I understand it is a pilot. I do see that we doubled the locations. I'd love to see what it's going to do. I think the important part, though, is what Judge and others feel is that we have to do a lot of public involvement. We need to commit ourselves to go to the school boards. Just recent, Edinburgh lost a commissioner, and I don't know what the status is on running their election, whether it's going to be on this November or not. But at the end of the day, I think we need to do our due diligence to help government, help our people understand the pilot program, and find a way to bridge the gap between the theory of making it from theory to practical. But I'm in support of it. I'd like to see Jefferson was one of the boxes. I also in Edinburgh that I voted Jefferson. That's probably the most contentious and most people have been voting there for years and years. It was on the 2011. I don't know why it changed, but I'd have the same argument for Jefferson and Edinburgh as I would with Gonzales and McAllen. So if we can work on those two, it'd be great. But those are my points.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I do want to express to the court that we did look at the data as it allows us to look at the data, which is by polling location. And we did provide an incredible spreadsheet to the committee members showing from our presidential, because it would not have been correct for me to go to a constitutional, which is one of our lower voter turnout, and given them that data and said, go from there. Instead, our goal was to have them have a choice from the most incredible election, which is our presidential. That's the largest as far as poll location. That's the largest as far as voter turnout. So they did receive the data. You did hear Lubbock County, though, say that the only way to truly get empirical data on vote centers is to begin, because there is nothing else that we can compare it to. I plan to work with UT Pan Am and STC so that they can help us put out a survey. We're going to do the points so that we can see and try to track, do the people go and vote because that's where they work or that's where they live? So all this is yet to come. And yes, sir, Commissioner, we definitely need to do a better job of letting the community know. And as I tried to explain yesterday, that's phase 2. Definitely, the state would not approve this program if we don't have a communication plan in place. Right. So that is yet to come. Once we have the locations in place, then we are, and I've been working with Karina and I've been telling her, get me in everywhere. I want to be everywhere. And yesterday the judge had a very good suggestion, which is to involve the committee even more as we go through our county and let the county know what, hopefully today, the Commissioner's Court has voted us to do.
And I will agree with you. We do have to start somewhere.
Yes, sir, we do.
So.
Thank you.
Is our budget in place for this?
Yes, sir, because the whole contention was that we would take the elections that are in place, the polling locations that are in place, and then consolidate. And I know that that has been looked at to be with a negative connotation, but it's really not, because that's why we gave them the data that we gave them, so that then we could see what locations are closed. We will bring in the workers that worked at locations that may possibly not be used this time.
The answer is yes, we have the budget
Yes,
in place.
sir. Yes, sir. And of course, the first thing I need to do is to meet with our budget office.
Now, I had a concern initially. I felt the same way Ms. Weisfeld and Ms. Cass did, because in my mind, I was thinking March, I was thinking November general.
Yes, sir.
And once it got focused in that this is our pilot program, and it'll only be applicable to this constitutional election.
That's correct.
Why couldn't you just simplify it to eliminate all concerns, use the same 30 locations we did in 2011 when nobody said anything, and then you have 31 more to play with or work with?
That's correct. We had to, you're asking why we didn't just use the 30?
That way nobody could complain that we're taking anything away.
Well, in reality, we're not taking anything away. We are
Well,
doubling.
we are from the initial 30.
From a presidential point of view, that was what the committee's job was supposed to do, Judge. They were each supposed to go to each center, and the whole point of a vote center is maximizing the space. So some of these locations that they may not have recommended, I know have to do with space. They have to do with traffic. There is, for example, one elementary school. They're so wonderful. They say yes to us, but they put us in the location right as we walk in. The kids are everywhere. We are in the way. That would not be a recommended location when there is a location that is bigger and more ample with good parking, ADA compliant.
Right.
Those were the recommendations from the committee, and those are the reasons why. They were in charge.
Well, I forgot to say, the important thing also, being the fact that we're only doing on the constitutional, the general public's going to get used to this voting
Yes, sir.
center deal.
And that is always our goal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the goal, but we have to, we got to make sure there's a success. We
That's
can't
correct.
confuse the voter at this point in time. So it has to be a catalyst to the future, because in the fact, if we don't adopt what we do this November, come primary, they're going to be confused as heck on where they're going if we revert back to the original location. That's why it's really important, like the judge is saying, is start with the 30 you had and build upon that. But we have a daunting task to inform the voter, inform every governmental group that's going to be running elections, whether in primary or any other election, because it's in fact going to embed in their psyche of where they're going to vote this next time.
Yes, sir.
The voter's not thinking congressional or anything. They're just casting their vote for every election. They're going to think it's predestined that that's going to be the location from here on out. So
And I would like to give two comments. The first one is that every county that has piloted, and in fact now there are 6 counties that are permanent with vote centers, they started off with 1. They started off with November. In 2009, our legislators voted to have May elections come in. They didn't have it in 2005. It was not until 2009. Then those counties like Lubbock that had already perfected and really done vote centers well in November were the first to then bring in May. The primary right now is being looked at by our legislators. They have not yet voted it in to be a vote center. So definitely they grew and they added in as they got better. They didn't. None of them did all of the elections at once because it is a change. It is more difficult. Our voters are already used to, Commissioner, and that's why vote centers is so important, that if it's a school election, they go to one location, but if it's a city election, they may have to go to another. And then we run an election, and it's a third location. Vote centers eventually should help stabilize the location, because no longer will it be my neighborhood down the street. It's going to be the center in which I vote. That's the goal.
Wow.
So I would like to, at this time then, ask the court to please take action and approve the proposed vote center locations for the November 5th, 2013 constitutional amendment election.
What would happen if, when you make an appearance before a school board, we're going to set up these meetings for you and your committee and the city, and they say, well, you know, it shouldn't be at City Hall, it should be at the library or something. Are you going to be flexible enough to listen to them?
We would then have to start with the Department of Justice, and as you know, Judge, every time that you submit...
I'm talking about doing it in June, during this month, during their meetings.
Yes, sir.
And that'll be plenty of time in order to be able to you address it with DOJ and whoever else.
Well, the only thing is, Judge, that my plan has to be now created and submitted to the Secretary of State. They then have 30 to 60 days to approve this plan, return it to us, and I cannot submit to the Department of Justice until I have heard from the Secretary of State. At that point, then, the DOJ would take over, and I certainly cannot see us moving forward without that in hand, because this would then totally not be approved by the DOJ in time for the Military Act. The MOVE Act forces us to have a ballot 45 days before Election Day, then for us to have logic and accuracy and the programming and everything way before.
So
the whole scope has changed.
So if you're looking at a timeline, you're saying you got to have it in by September. So if we do our due diligence set meetings by this month,
I have to have that letter back by September.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well,
not going forward, but back.
You're gonna have
And the
July-
DOJ has 60 days.
You're going to have it in July and August, 2 months.
Yes, sir, but the plan has to be created, and I don't think you all saw Lubbock's plan, which is about this, it was about this high. It takes so much to prepare the plan, the communication plan, the model. It's not something I can do overnight. It's something that I had given myself at least a week to work on and to send to the Secretary of State first.
well, in this case, you don't have a lot of, I mean, you're 3/4 of the way there. I mean, if anything, or maybe even more, because you're just looking at a couple locations that are questionable, that I believe will be a problem when you're dealing with cities and school districts and stuff. I think in the other areas, I don't think you have a problem. I think that if you work within the month of June up to July, I think you can relatively know what you need to adjust so that you can send it in.
I think that it's important to note, for example, in the sheet that was handed to you, for example, the City of Alamo had 1 location, and now the recommendation is 2. The City of Edinburgh, for example, had 4 locations, and we have upped it to 13. The City of McAllen had 6 locations, and now they have 10.
When is the letter due to the Secretary of State?
It's due in June, and with my plan. It's not just a letter.
Because I was told that it was July the 23rd was the deadline.
That is the deadline for me to be able, July, August, September, to be able to have to the Department of Justice, because they take 60 days and they take all of the 60 days in order to approve anything that is submitted. And it has to start from scratch, Judge, because vote centers has never been applied. So in thinking, you think, well, they shouldn't have a problem because those are all of our sites. Well, but now they're looking at them as vote centers, not at polling sites where we maybe could send 3 or 4 machines, but it's a totally different makeup in order for us to prepare for a vote center.
You know, what we're talking about is not for you to redo the whole thing, is in the event you make an appearance and you're in the Donna School District Board meeting and they say, no, we don't believe that's appropriate. We know we live here, we understand what's going on, we want you to put it over here. Are you going to be flexible enough to make that change?
I don't think the word is flexible, Judge, in the sense that
what else could it be?
It would have to be
Do you want to
time.
make a change? Are you willing to
We
make
will
a change in the plan?
we will definitely work with them, but if you'll see, Donna has always used Amigos del Valle, and that didn't change.
Can we do this? Can we just reserve the month of June? Meet with the city, meet with the school district, both Edinburgh, McAllen, and any other city we feel that there might be an adjustment?
Well, if we're going to open it up to one entity, we need to open it up to all the cities and all
Yes,
the
sir.
school districts.
Yes, sir.
In order to be fair to everybody. For example, if you submit your plan, as you call it, with 50 locations for approval.
61.
No, but it's an example.
Oh, okay.
Can you get free clearance and then maybe the court or your office decide to, instead of using 50, you're going to use 25?
The law stated,
Excuse me. If you get approval for whatever number you submit from the department, then it's up to us whether we use them or not use.
Let me see if I'm understanding the question. For example, if I submit with, let's say, these 61, and then I resubmit with additional according to the meetings?
No, he's saying to identify the ones that
go on
they
the
want to
high
add,
side,
but on the time of adopting, remove, just use the 61 that you decided.
Oh, once the Department of Justice pre-clears, then I would have to get an expedited, and they would only go, for example, when there's a storm. I had to ask for an expedited, but no, if we get the pre-clearance on the locations.
Hang on, let me try again. Let's say you send 100 locations.
Yes, sir.
And they approve the 100 locations. But then we decide to use 50 instead of 100.
No. Can't do that.
You got to be pre-cleared for those.
No, sir. Whatever they pre-clear is what we're saying we're going to use, and no, sir, we would not be able to remove.
You can't change them.
No.
Once it's cleared. But between now and then, you have the whole month of June to work on it. I mean, is it that difficult that it's going to take longer?
Well, because it's not so much that it's difficult, it's that the plan in place is now to go out to the community and to advise them of the locations.
No, that's your plan. But what I'm suggesting is that we don't go into phase 2, that we're still in phase 1. We're now communicating with the boards and commissions and get some input from them. 98 or 99% of these locations are going to be acceptable, but there may be 1 or 2 that needs to be changed. And all I'm asking is, are you willing to allow for those changes?
Yes, sir. Of course, I am willing, because it's ultimately the court. The only thing I would like for you to consider is this: the availability of the machines. We already have 61. You heard from the members before you that we taught them, and the law says that the whole point of a vote center is to increase in the equipment and be able to supply the voter the right to be able to go to a center.
Right.
If they were to increase even more, and we end up with more locations, then we run out of equipment.
Well, Judge, I'd like to make a motion for approval, but with the fact that we stick to 61 locations, while you're doing these outreach with the governments, if they want to replace one versus the other, we're perfectly fine with that.
Yes, sir.
I'm perfectly fine now. I just want to do the last part is adopt what we have. If there's any minor adjustment, there might not be any, there might be 1 or 2, we modify, and then you can move on and try this pilot and hope for the greatest success of all.
Commissioner, would you be agreeable to increase the number, for example, in PAC, with NAPR and the other precincts that have a history of high voter participation, but they're not included on this list?
Always keeping in mind that these locations were recommended for strictly the constitutional. When and if this court were to decide.
We understand, but
yes,
look,
sir. We could
Gonzales
increase.
Elementary is one of the top boxes in North McAllen in the county. Now you're moving it away from there. You're taking it away. They no longer vote there. They voted there in 2011, constitutional, and you're trying to send them to the McAllen Public Library, which is a very good location, but it's quite a distance away, and that may discourage people from voting. Why not keep that same location and add McAllen as one of the additional 31?
And I guess that would be the argument for all schools then, not just in McAllen, but in our other cities as well. We're focusing on McAllen when in reality there are so many other cities that have so many more elementaries that are not being recommended.
But we haven't had that argument yet. We've had the argument of Gonzales in writing from a city commission. We haven't had any other arguments. What would it take to just add that one right now? And God willing, we won't have that argument from others.
And we can, Commissioner. This is your decision.
Well, I'd like to make a motion for approval of all sites to add Gonzales Elementary in McAllen and give Ms. Ramon the month of June to work with other governments to see if it's appropriate. And then if there's any minor adjustments, consider the minor adjustments. If not, then have a deadline date of any adjustments and from there move forward.
Second.
Commissioner, hang on. Before we take action on that, if we're going back to the city of the school districts, why don't we table this until we go through the exercise and then bring it back for action.
Sometime around the latter part of June, after you've had an opportunity to visit with all these elected officials in our county.
The deadline, absolute deadline, is in mid-June, and I don't have that in front of me, but if we don't meet the deadline of the state, then the package cannot be submitted, and I will get that deadline for you. I just don't have it here in front of me. Because it's...
Then I, for one, am not ready to vote then until I hear from them.
I'm not either. I'm not either. So,
if in fact we wait until June and it's submitted into the state, then, as I said, the DOJ, which is, we need that letter in hand before we move forward. We would need 60 days.
You have a court here that believes that what we're trying to do is positive.
Yes, sir.
What we want to make sure is that we don't upset all these elected officials that we're trying to assist or help.
No, sir. That's
all
never the
these
intent.
people that rely on being elected that are going to be participating in this, or should be able to participate. They ought to have some kind of an input.
Yes, sir. Always keeping in mind the stats, though, and that is empirical data, that 70% of the people went and voted in 25 locations. 25, this last presidential. Less than 30% voted in 74 locations, while the majority of the vote is leaning and going towards early voting.
Do you want to act on your motion?
I will, Judge.
Okay, well, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Two.
Well, yeah, Chief, the motion is, can you restate your motion, Commissioner?
Well,
why don't we consider taking
why don't I'll just retract my motion and just table it for right now, Judge, until we have some sort of consensus.
Probably would be
with
the,
the
I
board.
think we need some more feedback from people involved in the process. I don't want to let go of the deadlines. I want to make sure we have something in place, because I think it's a very good, positive concept.
Now, Judge, I'm willing to go with Mr. Ramon in my district, to go to any government entity that will be affected by this. I have no problem making myself available every day to be able to get this resolved as quickly as possible, so we can hear it next week or the following week. I'm perfectly fit to do that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
No action will be taken.
One other comment, Mr. Ramon. Can you find out if there's a deadline, what the deadline is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And there will be 12 counties that are allowed to utilize the pilot program, because there are 6 that are permanent. So I will be talking to the state, and I will be talking to the other counties to see what their timeline was, to see how long it took, because on paper, it may appear as if we have lots of time, but when it's actually submitted,
well,
the time is very different.
Whatever it is.
Yes,
you might prepare a letter or I'll send a letter out to every city commission and every school board, telling them what we're attempting to do, and hopefully that'll speed up the process.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 18, our WIC program. And we do want to thank the members of the committee. I know they've been working hard.
Hello, I'm here good morning, Judge and Commissioners, to present to you the approval of a budget amendment for the WIC lactation grant in the amount of $17,500, and also to appropriate the certification of revenues and the appropriation of the funds.
Move for approval.
That's the 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Judge.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
19, Precinct 1.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning.
I lost the page here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're requesting authorization for the interlocal agreement between the City of Weslaco and the County of Hidalgo Precinct 1. This is for reconstruction of a 1-mile section, a Mile 9 road between 1015 and Mile 2 West. We had our Raul Cecin was the engineer for the project.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
1 and 2.
And the second one is acceptance and approval of the agreement as stated above.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 20.
Judge, on item 28, we're going to take no action at this time. We need to do a
All
little
right,
more
sir.
research.
Item 21.
Good
Mr.
morning,
Villarreal.
Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning,
Item
sir.
21A, requesting approval to process the following invoice as claimed with authority for county treasurer to issue payment after review audit, and processing procedures are completed by county auditor.
Move for
The
approval.
PO number, Judge, is 688203
Second.
for the amount of $5,094, Judge.
Need a those in favor,
Second.
say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir. Item 22, our budget office.
Item 22A, Sergio Cruz, Department of Budget Management. 22A is discussion, consideration, and approval of amendment number 1 to the advance funding agreement between the state of Texas and the county of Hidalgo for the 3 Safe Routes to School program projects as listed on the agenda, with authority for the county judge to sign the required documentation. Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 22B, 1 and 2 is authorization and approval to apply for the fiscal year 2013 Edward Burns Memorial Justice Assistant Grant with the U.S. Department of Justice, with the authorization for the county judge to sign the required documents.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 22C1 is approval of unappropriation of funds from the proceeds of the sale of assets by Precinct 1 from Fund 1302 in the amount of $92,376.
So moved.
Second.
Those in
One
favor, say aye.
Aye.
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C2 is approval of the appropriation of funds from the proceeds of... They got it, proceeds Sergio. of-
They got it.
It's already both?
Yeah, we did 1 and 2.
Oh, thank you.
Item 23, purchasing, Marty.
Yes. Martha Salazar for the Purchasing Department. Nothing to report or to take action on 21A, 2, A, B, and C respectively. Item 3, we're requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under pursuant to Texas Local Government Code 262-024A7C. May I have that exemption, please?
So move.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
I'm presenting and I ask approval of a sole source declaration for GTE Southwest DBA Verizon for the provision of telephone and related services for Hidalgo County's elected offices, departments, programs, and/or agency from all funding sources.
Move approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Approval for Hidalgo County elected offices, departments, programs, and/or agencies to purchase phone and related services through GTE Southwest DBA Verizon inasmuch as this provider has proprietary exclusive areas and zones.
Approval.
Second.
Do you have the name of the party involved?
GTE Verizon. No, these are some of those bills that you've been getting as claims, what we finally were able to get, and we have to do it in...
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right, it's with GTE.
Those
Anybody?
in favor of the motion and second, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item 4, we're presenting the sole bid received. Although 10 packets were distributed, one sole bidder presented a qualifying bid meeting all specifications and requirements, and this is for MS1 emulsified asphalt, including the contract, and that is performance grade asphalt.
What's the name of the company, Marty?
Performance grade asphalt, PGA.
Who are the people involved?
They're out of Corpus. We had 10 packets locally, and they're the only ones who submitted a bid.
All right.
Move for approval.
Second.
How are we supposed to, in the event we've got relatives that have businesses that are trying to work with the county, and we are concerned about voting on a particular issue involving them?
We would probably alert you, and they should have a conflict of interest filed with the county clerk. That's what the protocol is.
Explain to them
Under
what the-
Texas Government Code 716,
Yeah.
I believe,
Nobody
right?
sells it down.
I think it's 716.
That's true.
Local, sorry.
The conflict of interest questionnaire only needs to be resubmitted if a conflict arises during a change of administration or such.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
For the record, I'm abstaining.
Just in case.
Yeah, an
okay.
abundance of caution.
You're not sure? Okay. Yes, that would be the
I have relatives
best.
that are involved in that type of business, and I don't want to have any problems.
Okay.
All right, item 5.
We're requesting approval to declare as surplus for the purpose of destruction with the assistance of Hidalgo County Precinct 4 Road and Bridge, 22 total emergency law enforcement light bars, detailed in the exhibit.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
B would be after to remove those assets from the
Move for
list.
approval.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 6, this is presentation for discussion, consideration, acceptance of the resolution 2013-29 by the City of Kingsville authorizing the mayor to enter into a mutual benefit aid use agreement between the City of Kingsville and Hidalgo County, thus allowing both local governments to work together for the benefit of its citizenry when able to do so. This is going toward piggybacking off a procured contract with Ashbrit.
That's in case brush, like
Yes,
a hurricane or whatever?
just in case we have the need in a disaster.
Move for approval?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B is approval of the mutual benefit and use agreement as reviewed and approved by legal counsel between Hidalgo County and the City of Kingsville.
Move for approval?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
B1, Precinct 1, approval of a professional engineering services agreement as reviewed and approved by legal counsel for Lefevre Environmental Management Consulting for the purposes of engineering services.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
That is all I have. Thank you.
Pursuant to 551-071 and 072, need a motion to proceed to executive session.
Check.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. It's 11:14. We're going to be in executive session for a while. Item number 25 on our agenda, Mr. Guerra.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Under 25A, real estate acquisition, there's no action at this time. 24B, pending and/or potential, there is no action at this time. 24C, civil action number 7, 12 CV 00502, Carla Davis versus Hidalgo County Judge Commissioners. I'd like the court to consider in settlement of the Carla Davis versus Hidalgo County in the amount of $50,000 with all relevant documents to be signed.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 25D, civil action number 13-261, Jose G. Perez and Maria Guadalupe Perez versus Guadalupe Lupe Trevino, Sheriff of Hidalgo County, Texas et al. Judge Commissioners, I'd like to refer back to agenda item 7A1 and 2. 7A1, I'm requesting exemption from the competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code, Section 262.024A4, professional service for the provision of legal services representation in connection with litigation. If I could have a motion to that effect.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item 7A2, I'm requesting the engagement with the firm of Preston Henriksen for the provision of legal services representation in connection with litigation and authority to submit a letter of engagement specifically to Jose G. Perez and Maria G. Perez. And Maria G. Perez versus Sheriff Trevino and Hidalgo County.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 25E, civil action number 713-CV-00262, Ezequiel C. Jurado et al. Versus Guadalupe Trevino, Sheriff of Hidalgo County and Hidalgo County. Judge Commissioners, I'd like to refer again back to item 7A1 and 2. Item 7A1, requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under the Texas Local Government Code, Section 2620224A4, a professional service for the provision of legal services representation in connection with litigation. I could have a motion to that effect.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 7A2, requesting engagement with the firm of Atlas Hall and Rodriguez for the provision of legal services representation in connection with litigation and authority to submit a letter of engagement specifically to Ezequiel C. Jurado et al. Versus Guadalupe Trevino, Sheriff of Hidalgo County and Hidalgo County.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 25F, there is no action at this time under economic development. Item 20. I apologize. Item 25G, claim of Diego Cletus R. Cavazos. Judge Commissioners, I'd like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $1,800.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And 25H, claim of Rodolfo Trevino. Judge Commissioners, I'd like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $2,150.
So move.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item 25I, claim of Domingo Villapando. Again, Judge Commissioners, I'd like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $1,225.17.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There's no need for action on F.
No, sir, there is no action right now on F, the economic development.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's.